This has got to be the most yellow guitar that I've ever played, at least that I've ever had here in my studio. It's an SG style, kind of a squished body shape there, 3x3 headstock, but obviously based on an SG. We're going to take a look at this guitar and see if it's worthy of our pocket change. And I say pocket change because this guitar is not very expensive. Let's see what it's all about. Why don't you join me? Hey there, I'm Dan, the self-proclaimed Lonely Rocker. Thank you so much for joining me today. So today we are looking at the WestCreek Racer. Now, before I get into this, people often ask me, and I even ask myself this question, why am I doing this? Now, I'm not a connoisseur of budget guitars. I've been around the bend a few times. I have not a huge collection, but I have Gibsons and Sir and Schecters and things like that. So I've sort of made it my quest to get my hands on as much guitar gear as I can, regardless of how much it costs. The only consistent factor in all of my videos is that I have to appreciate the equipment that I'm showcasing on the channel. I don't make videos about things that I don't like. So I want to say that up front. I paid for this guitar. Now, the reason I bought this guitar in the first place is actually kind of silly. When I sit here facing the computer, because sometimes I mount my camera here, you can see into my studio. There's an empty wall on this side, and I thought, you know what, I should hang some guitars there. But as a rule, I just don't like to hang my expensive guitars up there. So I thought maybe I'll just pick up a couple cheap guitars. From a distance, you're not going to know what they are. Just a little set dressing, right? I'm always just trying to make the studio look good. And no, this stuff is real for the most part, but off in the distance, I thought I'd hang a couple guitars. So I discovered WestCreek. Now, whether I'm spending $200, $300 or $2,000, I'd like to check out the reviews and see what people are saying. And the reviews on the WestCreek products, by and large, were very, very positive. Not just what people were saying on Amazon, but also I found a few videos on YouTube as well. So I thought, you know what? I could order this, try it out, and as with Amazon, if I don't like it, I can return it. I know some people do the Amazon rental where you could buy it off Amazon, do the review, and send it back. I actually don't do that. But if I don't like something genuinely, I know I can return it, and I buy enough things on Amazon. So I decided to buy it. So from there, this is what happened. I received the guitar. First impression out of the box was like, it's yellow. It's very, very, very yellow. But the finish was really, really nice. But I noticed something. And if you're a gear nerd like me, a little thing like peeling off the plastic on a new piece of gear is just, it's like a rite of passage for every piece of gear that enters your environment, right? But I noticed, well, there was no plastic there, but there was remnants of some plastic on one of the screws, which led me to believe that someone had purchased this guitar, peeled off the plastic, played it, decided they didn't like it, and sent it back. And Amazon shipped it to me as new. So I sent a message to customer support, and this was more about Amazon, nothing to do with WestCreek. And a representative from WestCreek actually responded to me really, really quickly, apologizing profusely for my bad purchase experience. Now, I reiterated to them in the message that there's nothing wrong with this guitar. Honestly, I couldn't find a scratch on it. It's a brand new guitar. It was just something I wanted to mention. I don't know, maybe I was just being anal. Anyways, they wanted to make it right. They wouldn't hear anything otherwise. They wanted to send me a cash rebate on my purchase. So I accepted the rebate, but I decided at that point to keep the guitar. Maybe it'll be a project guitar. So from there, it's been about a month since I've had this guitar, and I just want to share with you my honest feelings about the guitar, keeping in mind that I did pay for it by myself. classic Gibson style 3x3 headstock, slightly angled there. I like their spin on it. This little swoosh they've got here on the top, very, very creative. It's a very unique spin on the sort of traditional 3x3 design. So you get sort of that vintage vibe, but their little custom appointment here, which I think is really nice. Also, the inlays here. Now, I don't know if it's sticker or foil. I don't know what it's made of. It's inside the finish, so you can't feel it, but I love the effect when the light hits that. And that's an attention to detail that you generally don't come to expect from budget guitars such as this, but it's a really, really nice touch. I mean, if that was just silkscreen on there with white paint or something, no one would say anything. But again, it's a source of pride, I think, for whoever's making this guitar. It's just a nice attention to detail. So let's keep working on down here. The tuners, which are not branded, so some unbranded tuners here. So far, they seem okay. Now, this is something that I often will replace even on more expensive guitars. Just get sort of a name brand tuner in there, locking tuners perhaps, so they're not locking. But you know what? They're pretty stable. I can't say they're causing any issues. Certainly not hurting the tuning stability of this guitar. So in the short term, I've actually got no complaints about them. If I do decide to get more serious about this guitar, like I said, sometimes I will do some upgrades on my guitars, but that's something I would look to change just cause. But no complaints about the tuners. Now from there, check this out, the nut. In the description of this guitar, they call this a bone nut. Now, I have no scientific way to prove that this is actually bone or some kind of bone substitute, but what I can tell you firsthand is that this is not some cheap plastic. And the reason I know, the only thing I did to this guitar before this review is I decided to put some heavier gauge strings on it because I gave it a little wipe down. I took off the strings. They're quite dirty, kind of had that factory dirt on them. So I took those off. And I went with a heavier gauge string thinking, you know, maybe let's see how this responds to a drop C. So I had to notch the slot here on the nut to accommodate the thicker E string. And I got some cheap files on Amazon. I actually don't have a luthier kit here to do that kind of work on guitars. So I thought, oh, I'll just get a little file set. Maybe I can file it down a little bit. I also wanted to bring it down just a touch. It was going out of tune a little bit. For the life of me, I could not make a dent. It's hard as a rock. And don't let WestCreek know, but I actually took a hacksaw blade, because I actually don't have files here, and just gently ran a hacksaw blade just to lower that, the notch in the nut there a little bit, just again to accommodate the thicker string and just to bring it down a little bit. But with a regular file, I couldn't even make dust. It's really, really hard. So it's got a pretty solid nut there. So that's all I can say about that. Anyways, as we move along here, speaking of the nut, one place we often see a little flaw in workmanship is around where the nut meets the fretboard, and it's really clean. Honestly, better than I've seen on guitars, 2-3 times the price of this guitar. And if we look along the edge of the neck here, I mean, that finish, it's a bound fretboard. Now, I don't know about manufacturing techniques. You know, looking at it, perhaps they had some process where the fretboard is bound before it's put on the guitar, but the transition from the binding to the rest of the neck here is absolutely flawless. Really, really clean all the way up and down and right to where the fretboard meets the guitar, and especially, as I mentioned, here at the nut. Incredibly clean. And while you're looking here, if we look at the fret ends, now I don't know if these are nickel or stainless steel. I didn't check the specs before I did this, but they're highly polished frets. Now I've read and seen videos of people talking about how frets are installed on some budget guitars, is that they're pre-measured and cut before they put them onto the fretboard. I would assume on a guitar that's under $300, I can't imagine someone spending a day polishing frets, but whatever they're doing, they're even in terms of where they meet the end of the fretboard. And they've got that sort of the ball ends, really, really super smooth all the way up and down. I've seen on other guitars that I bought closer to $2,000 where, you know, you get a few rough ones somewhere and they missed a couple. Nope, nice and smooth all the way up. So, and pretty even too. I mean, I got to do a sort of maybe a deeper check on the leveling, but I'm not getting a lot of buzzing on the guitar. So that's a good indication that the frets are actually pretty level. So is that consistent with all of their instruments? Did I just get a good one? I'm not sure. Because another thing that I've noticed on budget guitars, when you take the string with your finger and just sort of rub it, you get kind of that scratchy sound if the frets aren't polished, but I'm not getting that feeling, that gritty feeling almost. It's super smooth. So the frets are nicely polished. So while we're talking about the fretboard, we've got these double chevron inlays. And again, attention to detail. All the way up to the 21st fret. The one on the 12th fret has that little sort of red coloring in there. You know, they've got that pearloid effect all the way through. Now here's something that I don't think anyone would have said anything is because as you get up to the top, the spaces between the frets get smaller and smaller, so the inlays get smaller. They could have transitioned to more of a simple dot or a square or even a triangle for that matter, and I don't think anyone would have said a word. But look how they've continued that chevron pattern all the way up to the 21st fret. I mean, the time and effort it takes to lay in that little one here and get it perfect, because that's the thing, you can't even feel the inlays. They're not raised or anything like that. All nicely polished and even all the way up. So beautiful attention to detail. We should put a counter how many times I'm going to say that. I think this is a rosewood fretboard. Everything is nicely polished, and the neck looks pretty straight to me. Again, I'll try, give you a shot best I can, but there's very, very little buzzing on the guitar. And like I said, I really didn't do much to this guitar. I did, because I changed the strings, I gave it a little intonation adjustment, and I mentioned what I did with the nut. But it's not buzzing, so a good indication that things are actually pretty straight. So as we transition to the body of the guitar, by the way, did I mention there's a flute back here too? I don't know if this is one piece or I think SGs traditionally are set necks. Again, I'm not an expert on that, but the finish is so good, I can't see any indication of what it might be at the heel here. So we'll assume it's a set neck, but really it doesn't matter. I don't know what they've got in here in terms of any extra reinforcement or things like that, but things seem pretty stable. Now we've got the double humbucker setup here, which is typical with an SG style guitar. Again, these are probably unbranded. I don't know what they are. And they actually sound okay. I've plugged them into my amps. I've plugged them into my modelers. And they're decent pickups. I mean, what can you say about a guitar that's under $300? A good set of Seymour Duncans, you're going to spend at least $300 for a set of pickups, maybe more for some higher end pickups. So I think for what you're paying for this guitar, they're very serviceable. For me personally, I might go something a little more high gain just because I've now decided to drop this down to drop C, and I'll probably leave it there. If this proves to hold its tune over time, maybe I'll upgrade the bridge pickup at the very least, something a little more high gain, maybe something a little with a little more definition. It's a little, we'll call it warmer, but they're serviceable pickups is the best I can say about those. You got the pickguard here, a multi-ply pickguard it looks like. Now one thing, this little piece here, again, either this is an attention to detail or they're covering up a route or something where the neck, just before it meets the pickup here. But this piece of the pickguard is actually a separate piece that's screwed on with 2 extra screws here. But it contours nicely to the rest of the pickguard. Just, again, a detail I want to mention that you might not see just looking at it on YouTube is that this little plastic piece here is actually a separate piece. Maybe one of these days I'll take it off and see if they're covering something here. I'm not sure. You've got sort of the vintage style top hat volume and tone controls here. You do have 2 volume and 2 tone. And we've got the toggle switch here, which feels okay. You know, I'm not gonna, it doesn't necessarily feel like the highest quality switch in the world. Again, these are little things that can be upgraded at any point. So far, it's working fine. And you've got sort of the traditional looking poker chip here. And you've got the jack for the guitar here on the face of the guitar, which again may be typical for this type of instrument. You got the tunematic style bridge and the stop tailpiece here, which is typical of this kind of setup. Also looking around back, the route here for the cavity here is super clean. Again, attention to detail. Things like this that are on the back, if it wasn't perfect, what are people going to say it's on the back? Pride of craftsmanship when someone pays attention to this kind of detail. And you've got these slight bevels on the edges here. And also you got a little bit of a bevel here on the armrest here, which makes this more comfortable than if it was a hard edge. Overall, like the finish on the guitar, and I have to mention, you know, at the horns here, this is often where you'll see some flaw in the paintwork, but even the tips of the corners, everything, it's just beautifully finished guitar. So WestCreek, I don't know what you're doing here, but this is a well-made guitar for under 300 Canadian dollars. That's 220 US dollars. It's a high quality instrument for the money. But you know what I can compare this to? You know, when you're used to playing Gibson guitars and you pick up an Epiphone, you kind of feel the difference, right? I mean, you play a $2,000-$3,000 Gibson, you expect that it's going to feel better than an Epiphone. Not to say an Epiphone is not a good guitar for the money. Well, an Epiphone, even an average one, is going to be more than 2 times the price of this guitar. And I was at a music store recently and I thought, let's put that to the test. And I picked up, it was an $1,800 Epiphone. It was one of their signature line. And I'm telling you, it didn't feel any better. Kind of got that feel, you know, that from a Gibson to an Epiphone, it's like a good quality Epiphone guitar for under $300. So that's what it feels like in my hands. I've been using it now for a month, and like I said, it stays in tune pretty good. Neck's pretty straight. So we'll see. I'm going to give it some more time, and perhaps we'll see it more often here on the channel. I am curious about some of the other guitars in WestCreek's lineup. They have a lot of some other traditional style guitars, Les Paul styles, you know, as I mentioned, sort of Les Paul Jr. They got some double neck guitars and even more modern style guitars as well, like V's and things like that. So I'll see, maybe I can get my hands on another one of the guitars and see if the quality is consistent with this one. That would be really interesting. But I'm curious, have you played a WestCreek guitar? I would love to hear from you. Is it something you would consider? The term influencer comes with a bit of responsibility. So if you do buy one, I would love to hear what you think about it. Guitars are very personal things. So ultimately, try it out and see if it's the right instrument for you. Don't always take my word for it. But so far, in the 30 days that I've owned one WestCreek guitar, the review is pretty good. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, any thoughts, something that I may have missed, let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to get back to you. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And remember, you don't need a band to rock and roll. I'll catch you in the next one.